Hi, Rick here, and this is another video of a Starship Legacy, and today I'm going with two ship names that sounded very strange to me, and before making this I had no idea of these names' history. The USS Crazy Horse and the Thunderchild. So, we won't be looking at real-world ships of the name, for reasons that will become apparent, as well as the canon of Star Trek and its extra content to track down the origin and legacy of these names. So, the Crazy Horse as a ship appears to be a first for this series so far, as there does not appear to be any vessel named the Crazy Horse, and aside from some privately owned vessels, I couldn't find anything. This is probably due to the date of the name's origin. As I'm sure you've noticed, many of the names of a lot of these ships come from the Royal Navy at points long ago, with the prefix HMS, before splitting into several other navies because, well, Rule Britannia. In earnest, though, the origin of the name Crazy Horse seems to be from the Oglala Lakota chieftain who lived around 1840 to 1877. He was instrumental in the Battle of Little Bighorn and seemed to be regarded as a noble warrior by all sides. The name Crazy Horse is a vague translation of his real name, Tasunke Witko. I hope I pronounced that right. After all, I'm well known for my flawless pronunciations. As we can see, as this is the origin of the name, it dates after 1776, and as an America-focused affair, there was no HMS Crazy Horse, nor can I find any records since of any other naval ship of that name. So, moving into the Star Trek lore now, and the first ship of the name we can find is from around 2250, the USS Crazy Horse. Unfortunately, we have little more than the name, not even a class or registry, but apparently the one-time boyfriend of Mia Colt served aboard this vessel. So let's move on to the only canon appearance of the ship's name. The USS Crazy Horse was an Excelsior-class vessel launched sometime prior to 2333 under the captaincy of Enzo Rudolfini. This vessel was first seen as part of the 14 ships that made the anti-Borg task force that was assembled to counter the potential of another Borg incursion as seen in Descent in 2369. Likewise, in 2370 it was part of another task force that took part in battles with the augmented Heron people. Then it turned up again in canon to ferry Admiral Eric Pressman to the USS Enterprise later that year. We know that the vessel was still in operation by 2379, making it another in the list of long-serving Excelsior classes serving for 46 years. And finally, we have the USS Crazy Horse NCC 95789 in 2409, which again was assigned to battles in the Amaga system against the Klingon Defense Force as part of the War of 2405 to 10. This ship was a Nomad class, which itself was an overhauled emissary class, and the Nomad was made to fit the wartime era of Starfleet and featured extra hull plating, housing the characteristically large warp drive of the emissary on which it was built. As a result, this ship had a surplus of power, which made it very reliable with strong survivability. So as we can see from other ships of its name, the USS Crazy Horse often served in battle, mostly as part of a task group and large fleet operations, which matches with its name's warrior origin. Moving on now to another Starfleet namesake, the Thunderchild. This name does come from a British Royal Navy ship, however it's a completely fictional one, even in the fictional history of Star Trek, making for some fictionception. The HMS Thunderchild was an ironclad torpedo ram based on the real rams conceived in the late 19th century, which, funnily enough, were designed to withstand collision and even weaponize that impact. It's from the novel The War of the Worlds, which sees the vessel take down 2 Martian tripods, allowing evacuees to escape. It is heroically destroyed in the effort. As a fictional vessel, it was often depicted in several styles, but always with key features of being low in profile with a heavy ram. This noble act from a classical work of science fiction seems to have sparked some fictional admiral's sense of honour in 2370, and the Akira class USS Thunderchild NCC 63549 was launched under the captaincy of Bem Okala. it was assigned numerous patrol missions, a task to which the Akira was uniquely suited, being both fast and a dangerous combatant with its low profile and twin hunched hulls adding layers of protection. It changed hands in 2372 to Captain Evelyn Hoffman and took part in the Battle of Sector 001 a year later against the Borg incursion. Alongside the USS Defiant, it held the line until the USS Enterprise, NCC 1701E, arrived, and Captain Picard used resurfaced knowledge of the Borg cube to destroy it. It's implied that the vessel also saw much combat in the Dominion War at times, docking at Deep Space Nine. The USS Thunderchild eventually met its end in combat against the Borg in 2380, and a new vessel with the name was in service by 2409. This new vessel bore the registry NCC 63549B, implying an interim ship that had the -A affix, but I could not find such a ship. This new Thunderchild again came into conflict with the Borg in 2409 under the command of Captain Varney in the Beta Quadrant, and it was a variant on the Akira class, being sleeker but with a narrower and more angular saucer section. Despite this, the vessel remains active, and in both iterations it has done the Federation proud. As the Akira class was designed in response to the Borg threat, it makes sense that it was repeatedly assigned to fulfill this purpose, and when not actively combating Borg, was often patrolling along dangerous borders. So, there we have it, a double dose of the Legacy series, as both these vessels have names that I've always wondered about. I can honestly say that I've never heard of either of these names before, but it's nice to see the diversity from where Star Trek vessels draw their identifications. In both these instances, one historical and one fictional, we see that the theme of battle was central to their actions within the expansive lore of Star Trek, and I appreciate when the name has a traceable meaning behind it. Thank you for watching this namesake look. I've been Rick, and I'll see you again later. Goodbye.